Welcome everyone to Current Issues with Abrar. I want you all in the audience and the viewers to imagine something. You're an 8-year-old innocent child. You don't get to play, you don't get to go to school, you don't get to do anything a normal child would. Instead, what you do is you go out in the grueling sun, do manual labor work from sunrise to sunset, 7 days a week without little to no food in your stomach. This is the shocking reality of child labor. I'm Abrar, and we are focusing on this issue today. Child labor is a major issue in the current modern age, despite the awareness that it has with the audience. So to discuss this topic and share some light about child labor, I've invited two guests here today. Welcome Dr. Adlina, who is a leading researcher on child labor, and Kevin, who has experienced firsthand the issue at hand and prevents exploitation of children in Cameroon and Central Africa. So there's that. Please. So, Dr. Adlina, would you mind sharing with us what you've learned from your research about the issue of child labor?
Gladly. Hi, my name is Dr. Adlina, and I'm very excited to share about my knowledge about child labor that I've compiled over multiple years. I've watched a lot of videos about the child labor survivors, and I've compiled all the information that I need to know about child labor from UNICEF and a lot of other organizations. So I found out that in this world itself, there's 160 million children that are engaged in child labor. 79 of them are performing in hazardous tasks. In the global progress about going against child labor has been stalled since the year 2016. Even though these are just assumptions, mere calculations, if we don't take any action against child labor, we will have around 140 million children who will be working under child labor in the year 2025 and 125 million in the year 2030. Child labor issues are more prevalent in boys rather than girls, but in terms of household chores, it narrows it down. It's pretty much equivalent. They're both the same. And child labor, it occurs mostly in the rural area instead of the urban area due to the education that people learn against the awareness about child labor and the issues that it can bring upon the children. The sectoral composition of child labor varies considerably across regions, and most children in child labor work within their own family unit. It was found out that even if the children are working against their will, they have to because they don't want to starve. The issues of starvation is insane, even though the parents are considerably worried about the health hazards that the children have to face due to child labor. And, to conclude, governments, they don't care and they can't enforce laws because there will always be loopholes to go for child labor, as what many major brands are doing currently.
Thank you, Dr. Adlina. There has been some very interesting facts and statistics about child labor. I didn't think we truly realized just how critical the situation has been for child labor. So, Kevin, you have been up close and personal about these issues in Cameroon. Could you share with us some experiences and stories that these children and families face?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as previously you stated, I'm stationed in Bafoussam, Cameroon. I think child labor is any form of work that brings extra income to the household that isn't done by the parents. I do believe there are two forms of child labor. There is acceptable child labor and there's unacceptable child labor. Acceptable child labor to me is basically any work that contributes to the child's education and their development, while unacceptable labor is more so kinds of work that are generally just the worst forms of labor. For instance, exploitation, trafficking, sexual work, prostitution, and all that, and even these cases of child soldiers in developing countries. So anything that harms the development and health of the child. Usually children, for some, they work jobs such as hawking at the local market or car workshops without proper safety equipment. And they do this either because they don't like studying, they don't like school, or because they need to support their families. So some families are quite reluctant, yet out of necessity, they have to send their kids out to work. Child labor can be extremely dangerous because it's an open door that leads to a lot of dire consequences. There was this case where a 50-year-old man had lured a little girl into his room, saying he would buy all her oranges. Instead, what ended up happening was he proceeded to abuse and take advantage of her. There's also this other story of a 9-year-old boy from Guatemala who worked at coffee fields for 14 hours per day, and he would suffer horrible side effects like vomiting, nausea, loss of appetite, he would faint, all that. And these are just a few of the countless heinous consequences that children face in child labor.
Those are some horrific stories about child labor, Kevin. I'm honored to give you a platform to share these stories around with everybody in the audience and the viewers. So, to take you back to what you said at the beginning of your conversation, you said that there are acceptable work for children to be doing. Do you really believe that?
I mean, yeah, sure. For example, doing daily chores around the house is good for the child's development and overall discipline. So I do stand by the fact that there are acceptable forms of work that children can do.
I would agree, but there are a lot of circumstances that can make even household work feel like child labor, like parents being overly strict to their children and abusing them without even realizing the after effects that they could have towards the children.
So, Dr. Adlina, you mentioned that there are effects that children go through in child labor, right? Can you elaborate on that a little bit? How does it actually affect them psychologically or sociologically?
There are two different perspectives that I'm going to talk about, which is the Eastern philosophical point and the Western philosophical point. So from the Eastern philosophical viewpoint, we believe that the child is like a gift from God, and they should be cherished and looked after from when they were young until they're an adult. And whatever mistakes that they've made, they should be taught that manually and make them independent and everything to be like the perfect adult. But from a Western point of view, they view the children as flawed, and they have to be taught like mannerism as an adult, basically. And because of that, if the child were to act in like a childlike manner, they would be scolded, and hence causing them to repress the emotions and the validation that they should feel. But because of that, they can't. So personally, Western point of view is kind of scuffed. But in the point of view of child labor, since the parents are typically busy working and everything to survive, and they themselves have to work with it, they lack the basic needs that a child needs, hence causing them to have like emotional and behavioral illnesses like depression, anxiety, mood disorders, and they also have like a greater risk of experiencing like physical abuse, stress, low school attendance, and like poor self-esteem.
If I may add something to what Dr. Adlina said. From a sociological perspective, people are mostly against child labor because it affects their mental health and behavior, as Dr. Adlina just mentioned. Furthermore, there's a high chance of getting abused verbally, physically, or even sexually. And additionally, it takes away their basic right to education. But also, there are some people who feel that poverty takes away their freedom to have basic necessities like shelter.
I think I understand what both of you are trying to say. You're saying that child labor and poverty go hand in hand, and it sort of creates a vicious cycle with the young children being caught in the middle of it. And without reducing one, we cannot eradicate the other one. Does that sound about right?
Yep, that sounds pretty much right. But there are initiatives being taken to reduce both of them by several organizations and even individuals. For instance, I don't know if you've heard of this individual, Nasreen Sheikh from Nepal. She's a child labor survivor herself who has become a role model for activism against exploitation of children in the fashion industry. She has built this handicraft shop and an empowerment center for offering an escape to young women and children who were part of that system. So she's been raising awareness of what ethical fashion should be. So in a way, she did break the cycle.
That was a very inspiring story, Kevin. Thank you for sharing that with everyone. So I think we all can learn that from the stories like Nasreen and the others that child labor is something that still need to be fought for, that still need to be eradicated, and raising awareness is very important for that. In fact, there is a fundraiser called Save the Children, who are committed to helping young children escape exploitation and live their lives like normal children. So please, if you can, contribute to the fundraiser and do your part for humanity. I would like to thank Dr. Adlina here and also Kevin for giving us insight on child labor and attending this show today. Thank you. And I think we all have learned something new today and the role we can help in preventing child labor. Thank you all. We appreciate it.